Hey friends, today we have an amazing episode, actually a two-parter with Daniella Monet. You may know her from her roles on Nickelodeon's Victorious and other TV shows, but she is on her own health and wellness journey with her own wellness community. And we talk all about, in this first episode, we're talking about family trauma, dealing with the issues at home, how they affect us and the entire family as a whole, postpartum anxiety, how to be a good mom, starting a healthcare journey, navigating health issues at a young age, misdiagnosis, eating disorders, and so much more. It is such a full episode, and you guys are going to love Daniella if you don't already. Hello, hello, Heal Squad. Welcome back. Glad to be with you. We have an amazing episode for you guys today. I'm so excited. We're going to start with our quote of the day. In order for things to change, we must first be willing to let go of our old ways. That is from Ken Keyes Jr. No idea who he is, but that's a great quote. As I said, we are chatting with Daniella Monet. She is best known for her role as Trina on Nickelodeon's Victorious. If you don't know it, your kids definitely do. She's also starred in popular sitcoms like Listen Up, Baby Daddy, and she served as host of Paradise Run. On top of being a successful actress, she's also the founder of the wellness community Daniella's Digest, which she started with the mission to make healthy, conscious living accessible to everyone. This platform serves as the community she wishes she had when she started her wellness journey years ago and provides all the support that you need on your wellness journey. And if that wasn't impressive enough, she's the owner of many food and beauty companies like Kinder Beauty, Pig Out, Chips, and so many more. We're really excited to have her in studio talking all things health, wellness, parenting, Hollywood, and I hope you guys enjoy. So you guys thought you were going to be Kurt and Goldie. We thought we were going to be Kurt and Goldie.
Yeah, what changed?
Okay, so for us, there was like when we first got together, there was like tumultuous family stuff that kept us from doing it when we would have wanted to. And then we made it out in this business and it was so busy and crazy. And there was just no time. And we're like, we don't need a piece of paper. We're fine. Yep. And then my mom got sick. Mm-hmm. And when my mom got sick, Kris Jenner said, tomorrow is never promised. Wow. Yeah. And I was like, and I remember talking to a colleague of mine at E! And his name was Will. And he was like, I wish my dad got to see me get married. And he passed before. And I remember putting those two conversations together. And I was hosting New Year's Eve for Fox. And they said they were going to marry a couple on TV. And the producer at the time was like, unless you want to get married. And I was like, ew, no. And then I thought about it and I go, wait, I could have a wedding, not invite anybody, not have to deal with everyone's dramas. Because that's what I think weddings are, drama.
Me too.
And I was like, and yet everyone can still be invited and my mom can see this and my dad, which is something they've like dreamed of forever. Boom, did it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
so,
super
but it was
cool.
like 20 years in. I mean, it was like 2017. So how long ago was that now? What year are we in? 24, 7 years ago. Yeah.
Wow. That's super cool. I relate to that. It was similar for me in that you're not promised tomorrow. My brother, is a recovering addict and I was really in the thick of his disease with him at that time, trying to get him well. And it was really like, I was mourning the idea of him passing. And then at the same time, looking at my kids, looking at our relationship, looking at like where I was in my life and realizing all of these narratives around, oh, marriage is silly. You don't need the wedding. You don't need all these things. Though were true, I felt so bonded to my husband more than ever. And I realized you are my safe space. You are my rock. Like when all things outside of this is out of the norm and crazy and chaotic, this is where I feel the safest. And I was like, I just want to do more. And I don't know what that is. And so it was like, I need to marry you.
Wow.
Yeah. I was like, I need this to be more than what it is, even though it feels like it's a lot. And so we just went to the courthouse one rainy day in between Christmas and New Year's, and our son gave us our rings, and that was it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so how old was your son?
He was 3.
So he kind of understood what was happening.
He totally did. Yeah, and that was really cool for him. Our daughter was too young, but I remember thinking if I ever got married, I would want them to see the coming togetherness of a relationship.
I just got the chills.
Yeah.
That's cute.
Yeah, because like, you know, I don't know what your family dynamic is, but like we didn't have healthy marriage examples in our lives. And so I never really had this like, fairy tale idea of marriage, but I knew that if I ever found it, I would want my kids to see it. And so if we one day do a ceremony, which I don't know if I ever will at this point, but if we did, I'd want them to be a part of it so they can see the work that we've put into it. And here we are.
Yeah. I think I would want to do, what do they call them? The vow renewals or whatever.
Totally. That's
with
what
Athena
I thought.
at some point when she's a little older.
Yes.
I think it'd be really cute. I already want to do it again just for me and Kevin because I feel like we've gone through so much since the last time that I want to just have that next level moment, I guess.
Yeah.
And have it with her as, a unit. So why were you in charge of your brother?
On and off I was. So from a young age, he kind of was really like my kid in a way. He slept in my room and I really felt very nurturing over him. And so I think also with addiction, it is a family disease. And there are times when people who could step in would step in. And there were other times where they couldn't and it was too much. And it was just my time where I felt like I had the space and was able to do that for him. His disease was layered with a lot of emotional, mental stuff too. And it ultimately, he was homeless on and off. And so it would get to the point where it was so hard to even sleep at night knowing or not knowing what could be
happening.
Exactly. And so I knew that it was pretty bad. And I was like, there's really no way to cope with this unless I either process the fact that I'm done and he takes the path he's going to take, or I step in again. And so I did. And it takes a toll on my relationship, our home dynamic. Now we have children. I could do it before without kids and it was still equally as hard for our relationship. But with kids, it's a different layer. And so there's this idea that you're trying to save and protect this one person who's a full-on adult. He was in his 30s while shielding your kids from what that is and why that's happening, and then creating this dynamic in your relationship where it's you're still equally as important and I need you to be a rock right now too, and I need to respect our dynamic so that doesn't fall apart. There was
with
just
your
a lot
husband.
Yeah.
Wait, so how old were you when you first started kind of being
caretaking for him a little bit? When I was a kid for sure, but then I moved out when I was about 17 years old, and from that point on I had him with me on and off depending on where I was living. So he would kind of just show up and live with me for a period of time.
Was this when you were working in the industry?
Yeah, and I was working. And so it made it really hard because I couldn't manage him. I couldn't see it all,
Well, those hours on TV sets are crazy too.
Yeah.
So now you're coming home exhausted and you have to deal with all of that.
Yeah.
What's the age difference?
We are 4 years apart.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I had a similar-ish experience as I'm asking because my brother, definitely had his troubles. And I remember having to take over because my mom was just
it's a lot.
She had my dad who was a severe type 1 diabetic, almost dying on the regular. And then she had him and he was, doing his thing. I don't have his permission to mention anything, but he was doing his thing and it was a lot. And so then I would take over and go to school and talk to his teachers and help them, find the way to get him to pass and, do all the things that she just couldn't handle anymore because she was at her wit's end.
How does that make you feel around because I've seen it take such a toll on my parents.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And it's really hard to grapple with that because there's part of me that's now that I'm a mom, I understand how you do whatever you can always.
Yeah.
How could you at one point just turn a blind eye and hope for the best and pray and that's all. But then there's a part of you that just can't.
Mm-hmm.
And so I understand that push and pull.
On another level. Yeah. I know. It's hard. I've been looking back at pictures of me young with my parents and for different reasons, because I'm looking at Athena to see who she looks like and things like that. And I see my mom in the beginning and she would be dressed up, they were immigrants in this country and they were so proud to be here. And even if it was a first birthday party and it was just us, the three of us at that time, she would wear her red dress and her red lipstick, and they would look so cute. And I remember my dad would hide little gifts from her in the Christmas tree.
Oh my goodness.
And then at some point, all of that went away. And I see that difference. And the difference happened when money struggles came in and my brother's struggles came in.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of it, she always had my dad's struggles. But then when you add all of those other burdens in, I mean, how does someone even handle all of that?
Yeah.
And then the pressures of not knowing the language and trying to navigate this life. I always looked at them how did you do all of this? But the burdens are really, really intense on families. And it's really, really hard.
Mm-hmm. And the shifting of them all the time, because it doesn't feel fair for one person to hold that burden all the time. Although you feel like at some point you're like, but this is your burden. And somehow this happened and this must be because of something that happened. There's a part of me that has some deeper stuff that I need to cope with my own parents, because I used to, in a sense, blame the dynamic or my brother's stuff on the dynamic that existed in the household. This can't necessarily happen out of the blue. You know, yeah, sure, you have addicts that, try something and get hooked, but there was so layered, and for so many years, I could see that there was more there. So, yeah, and I'm happy, at this point, somehow my mom came to a point where she was able to help again, and he's been clean for now 2-3 months.
Wow.
And it's next level. It's the first in 13 years that he's had this long of so you're always sort of.
But that's not a coincidence. Your mom being able to step up is what he probably always needed and wanted, and that's why he can do it.
Totally.
I have the chills.
Totally. But my mom, I think, needed to find that courage and also that stability in herself, that she could even do that and still be there for herself. And I think, they always say you at some point look at your parents as as people and less of parents. And that happened early for me, very early, where I was like, oh, okay, I get it. I'm going to handle what I got to handle. You two are people and I love you and respect you, but I want you to be happy and don't worry about me. That was the approach I took. Whereas I think my brother maybe felt wait, where'd my I need parents. I need really good, cohesive, parents. I need a family. I need a dynamic that's really healthy and safe. And he didn't necessarily have the tools or the resources to be I got this. His I got this was I got this, and I'll take care of myself the best way I know how.
I will self-soothe.
Yeah, self-soothe. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an interesting discussion, because there's the camp that thinks you're a product of your environment. And then there's the other side that's you are what you are to begin with.
Sure.
I look at my brother and I'm I think he was who he was.
Sure.
I think we all are who we are. And then, environment will help along the way.
Yeah.
But, I look at pictures and he was frowning and unhappy and do I think that there were things that my parents did that were different with us? Yes. With me, they were super strict. With him, they were super lenient because he was the boy. He could do whatever he wanted. And so there was no boundaries around it for him. And maybe my dad wanted him to be a tough guy and like him, and maybe my brother was more sensitive.
Yeah.
And so that was an issue. I don't know all of it officially, because I was doing my journey but as you look back, I think you are who you are. I think.
I agree with that.
I'm still open to discussion.
I agree with that. And the reason I agree with that is because now that I have kids, again, it's I have 2 children, 4 and 3, and they are so different in so many ways. My son is very sensitive, very intellectual, very sensitive. My daughter's a jokester, light, she'll get hurt and she walks it off. He gets hurt and it's the world stops. Please pay attention to me. And it can be challenging because he has some questions. Right now he's questioning things around I don't know if it was something he heard at school, but he wants to understand death. He wants to understand what happens in heaven. He wants to understand And for me, I'm like, I don't even have all these answers prepared myself. Like, I don't
Wait,
know.
isn't that so hard as a mom where
Yes.
you're like, shit, am I a terrible mom? I don't know this stuff yet.
Yes.
I can see it
I just said,
coming,
like,
yeah.
I'm not sure. I've never been. I'm not familiar. Like, you know, I hear great things. Like,
Yeah. Wait, and don't you feel like guilty? Like I feel like sometimes these
Awful.
other moms like have all their shit together and they know exactly what to say and exactly what to do. And I'm like, am I just lame? What's wrong? Do you feel like that?
I feel that way all the time. I am truly like a more reactive parent, as like it is harder for me to like predict these conversations, and it's not like we've had these conversations with my husband and I where we're like, how are we going to approach this when this comes up? Like,
because
they're
you're just trying to
3 and 4.
survive.
Felt like they just got there. Like, I'm like, you just were born. Like, why are we talking about this now?
Yeah.
And also, like, enjoy, go play. Like, why do you want to know?
Exactly.
Oh.
That's so funny.
Yeah, so that's a good point, because I'm like, I'm not that deep. I can definitely go deep, but I ride more of like the let's keep it positive and light vibe. Whereas like now I have a 4-year-old who's like, no, cut to the chase, Mom.
Wait, do you know why that's happening?
To
Oh my
show me what I need to learn.
Oh my God. Isn't it so crazy how obvious it can be if you really look at it? You don't want to go deep.
I know.
Because the deep is the pain.
I just want to disassociate.
Yeah, no, trust me. I'm like the same. I don't want to think about it. Like my husband tells me, he's like, someday you're going to wake up and you're going to see what you went through in this business, the pains, the toxicities. You're going to see what you went through in your childhood. You're going to see what you went through with all your health issues, and it's going to just all hit you. And I'm like, no, I don't think I'm gonna. No, I'm good, because I'd rather live in a good space. I don't need to go under the bed and pull out all the, the shit underneath there. I've done it in my therapy sessions to a degree, obviously, but I think that sometimes you're just so scared to go that intense.
Totally.
Right? But they make you.
They make you. There's a reason for it. I mean, I'm not arguing. There certainly is a reason for it. There's so much healing in that pain, like unlocking that.
Yeah, because I'm sure there's resentment that you had to take care of your brother.
Sure.
I know. I mean, I have that too. I have resentment. I wasn't protected in my own home. I wasn't safe. And so I don't, as an adult, look at them and say, I resent you.
Sure. No.
But the kid in me, for sure, is like, why did you allow that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it shows up for me in a sense of like, all I want is for my parents to be happy in their individual lives. They're now divorced and they're in their lives. And it's like, that to me is like, as long as they're happy, in my mind, I'm like, you don't have to worry about me. And therefore I can put a little bit of a
distance. Yeah.
And so that's where I'm like, I know I'm going to have to deal with that at some point, because so many people are like, just work through it, because you're going to regret that time that you had the distance. But it just feels so much better to like wish everyone well and joy and love and prosperity and all the things. And like, if I can help and step in when I can and it feels right, I will. And if I want to be over here and you know that I'm good, like, don't worry about me. It's so interesting.
Yeah. But, there's also like, you've gone through health struggles.
Yeah.
And I wonder, have you seen a connection to all of it?
Sure. Yeah. I think there was like an abandonment piece there that like people weren't willing to look at. It was a lot of, let's put a Band-Aid on it. Let's ignore, let's do what's the easiest. And I was here kind of feeling like so many needs were not met. And I knew there was more to it. And I just was it was like being on a roller coaster. It was like life was going really fast. I was on a show. Things were so good on the surface. And underneath it all, like, I neglected everything that was important to me now, today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have time.
Yeah.
And also when things are skyrocketing like they did for you, I mean, you were on so many hit shows and this is like dreams are coming true.
Yeah.
And you almost just kind of dive right in and do what you got to do. And you leave everything behind. But you leave everything behind. And then it bubbles up. And it's like, okay, time to deal with it. Let me give you an illness and let me sidetrack you.
Yeah.
So I guess will you share with everybody kind of what that was? Because you kind of had your your brain tumor moment, let's say, you had your transformational moment that kind of shifted you into a whole other path, which is very similar to what we're on the same kind of path, which is a health and wellness path. While we're still straddling the other worlds that we were in. But yeah, I'd love for you to share a little bit about what you were dealing with.
Sure. So I think it really stems back to, some like less stable environment in my family, parents sort of like not in the healthiest relationship, them both being diagnosed with breast cancer around the same period of time.
Which is wild. What are the statistics on men and breast cancer?
It's a great question. I know that it's really rare. And I remember when my dad was diagnosed, I think it really took him off. And my dad's similar to me in a sense that like we're handling, like let's just handle it and like move on, like put it away, And so he got it all removed, like literally a whole mastectomy on one side. So he did that. My mom was diagnosed afterwards, which was wild. And she caught it earlier on and then had like lymph nodes and stuff removed and treated it the more minor way, and she was fine. I remember all this is happening. The relationship's really on the rocks and falling apart.
16?
I was 15, 16.
Okay.
Yeah. I get my first series, a CBS show. There's so much like stuff that's just exciting. I'm flying to New York for the upfronts. My whole life was changing overnight. And that's also a interesting time, right? Like backstory, just a little. So I was a late bloomer. I got my period at 15. Okay.
No
and this
way.
is important. Yeah. This is important only because this is the piece that I wish people would have been paying closer attention to, because while this is all going on, I get one cycle.
While this meaning your parents having breast cancer.
My parents going through.
Sorry, this is my diabetic Dexcom machine just going off because of my blood sugar.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, good. Like my parents, the relationship kind of on the rocks, the health scares that they're dealing with, me now focusing on the show and putting a lot of pressure on myself to make this a success. Obviously, it's a network show. There's a lot of pressure, network run-throughs, all the things. I lose my period, like gone. It came once and it goes away. So
at 15?
At 15, yeah. So it goes away.
It came once. And then went away.
Went away.
Okay.
I think I start to deal with things the best way I know how, when you're working, and now I know it is kind of an appetite suppressant in a lot of ways. Like food, which was very important to me growing up in an Italian family.
Are you guys, both your parents Italian?
My mom's side is.
Oh, okay.
My dad's side's Croatian and Chilean. So there's a lot of flavors.
Okay, yeah. But
my Italian side is what I'm most close. I grew up with my nonna and my nonno growing up in the garden.
Did Kevin know you're Italian?
No.
Oh, yeah. Okay. He's Italian too.
Oh, I could tell.
Yeah. Italians always like,
you could sniff him out.
But do you see his intensity?
I love it.
Italians are so intense. Literally, he'll meet someone, he's like a career intuitive too. So he just goes right in, he knows. But when I went to Italy and I saw what they built like overnight, I go, I get you now. Yeah. Because he can build Rome overnight. He's so intense. And sometimes I'm like, honey, I feel like I live with my ice skating coach. There's too much sometimes.
Oh my God, that's a whole nother segue. I get that.
Yeah. So anyway, okay. So Italian.
Yeah, Italian.
Got it.
So
Food
you understand like the family, right? So I lose my period, I'm working, I'm busy, I'm high on life. I kind of think food isn't that as important anymore. I start to get a little OCD with it.
But was it the food wasn't important anymore, or was it you're in this industry, you're looking at the other girls?
Yeah, this was the height of like, I mean, if I'm being honest, the OC was like a huge thing at that point. I remember Misha Barton was frail and everyone was hyping up like the skinnier, the better. On our same lot where we filmed, there was another girl my age who was anorexic and people knew it. And it was kind of like not a big deal, but like also very obvious on television. And so I was like, oh, this is what happens. You get on a show and you have to be thin. Yeah. Like you have to. And so I thought I was doing my job. Like at that point, it wasn't as if like, I thought I was doing what everyone was doing, you know, and I probably was. But the problem is that I was dealing with so many other stresses. So I was dealing with maybe anxiety, some like OCD over just trying to be the best version of myself, not really acknowledging a ton of the stuff going on at home. I'm now like out of school, removed from friends, peers, all that thing, getting thrown into the work world. I was really the only kid on the show too. So that was a challenge because I didn't really have anyone to like vibe with. They were all adults. And I had some like IBS on paper, and I went to a doctor. Nobody wanted to acknowledge that maybe there's some new elements in your life. It could be stress. Maybe you need to breathe, move your body, like all these other things. They just quickly put me on something called Zelnorm, which was then later illegal for killing people due to heart attacks. It was basically like...
So that's like the skin stuff that everyone got, that was Accutane that got everybody to kill themselves, unfortunately.
Yeah, so it was really scary because it was in the infancy stages, and I was a young, little, thin girl to begin with. Like, I mean, I remember being around like 90 to 100 pounds when I started this show, and I got to as low as 70 pounds because Zelnorm had what was equivalent to like speed in it. So I was high on life, moving around, not really eating like the way I used to.
Well, now
and then my appetite is gone. And then I'm not digesting food anymore because I'm probably not putting enough in my body. So then they go, well, you need to be on Miralax. So they give me Miralax to put in all my coffee or whatever I was drinking at the time.
Miralax is the softener? Stool softener?
It's a stool softener. And then they said you could take Senecol, which is like a laxative.
Wait, they're giving you more?
Yes. So I was on Zelnorm with Miralax. Those were my two prescriptions that I would have to get all the time. Then eventually what happened was Zelnorm wasn't working anymore. So my prescription would have to be up. It got to a point where like I would take it and it would just instantly be like heart racing. And then of course the Miralax, and I had what was called a floppy colon because I couldn't digest food anymore on my own. It was like in the mouth, out, in the mouth, out, or nothing at all. So it was like scary to eat because I would feel that
you didn't know what you were going to get, and you're on set and you don't want something horrible to happen in front of everybody.
Yes. And so there was just...
And you can't take breaks.
No.
You can't take bathroom breaks the way people think you can.
No.
Because you're going to delay the production.
100%. And I remember going through wardrobe and my sizes just dropping to the point where they were like, okay, now we're going to have to buy Abercrombie kid sizes, let the hem out or add fabric on the bottom because the waist was so small and they couldn't get the length right. And it was just so much conversation. Then I felt the chatter. Then I felt the network's energy. And then I felt, okay, now you need to see a doctor, like a nutritionist, a therapist. Like, can you go at 5 a.m. before you get to work? Like,
can you go at 5 a.m. at 15?
It was a lot. And that was when I realized something's wrong. I stopped taking Zelnorm, quickly put on, I'm not exaggerating, I went from 70 pounds to probably like 130 pounds, what felt like overnight. My body was just hungry and it was on so many medications and it was scary. Like at one point in between that, they put me in the hospital because I hadn't gone to the bathroom in 2 weeks because nothing was like processing correctly.
Yeah, they probably think you have like an obstruction or something.
So they like put a tube down my nose. I'm in the hospital. They're trying to put a drip into my colon to see if they can move things around. And it was so traumatic. I only remember like bits and pieces because I just...
unnecessary stuff, right?
Like if I could go back and if I could have been me today talking to me then, I would have said, you are perfectly healthy. You are a perfectly healthy girl who's in a kind of chaotic time in your life. But let's look at what's so good about it and what we can do to make ourselves feel a little bit more whole and balanced. Like you're neglecting your sleep because now you have a commute and you have schoolwork and you have all these additional things that you didn't know you would have, right? You're probably not eating balanced meals. No one's paying attention to even what you're eating.
You have craft service.
That's it. It's just what it is.
Just get by.
Yeah, you just get by. You're not working out or doing anything that's like giving you those easy hits of dopamine that isn't based off of like looks or if you nailed that joke or if the episode got good ratings. Like you're not actually doing what's healthy for you.
Yeah, well, because you can't work out when you're doing 12-hour days on set.
No.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. And now, like, going back to where I am today and diving back into acting, now it's like I call it my new chapter. I'm so intentional about so much to the point where, like, I try not to make it anyone else's thing, but, like, it's very apparent when I walk on a set and they're like, she's got her matcha, like, she brought her water bottle in her glass, like, she's got her things.
I have a suitcase with me of all my shit.
A duffel bag. I had a duffel bag, and I have this perfect duffel bag I found. It's called Mina Bay, and it's actually a diaper bag, okay? And it has all the compartments. So I have my magnesium L-theanate in one, I have my chlorophyll drops in the other. Everything's very organized, so I know if I need to dive in, I'm like, which pocket is it?
I'm dead. I know.
Just know
we know
better.
You know better, you do better.
Yeah.
But that's like the system that like upsets me so much is what people don't understand and why I do what I do every day now is is to kind of like peel back the curtain and say, it's not the doctor's fault necessarily. They're not
They were treating a
malintentioned.
problem.
They're trained like this. This is their training. So at 18, you go to medical school for whatever reason you decided, whether it's because that's what you love and want to do, or you want to impress your parents, or you want to make a lot of money, whatever your reasoning is. But the pharmaceutical companies underwriting all this education have a goal. They want to they want to take symptoms, match them with an illness, then match them with a prescription. And that's what they did with you. Rather than looking at the holistic picture of what was going on with you and saying, okay, how can we, set her circadian rhythm? How can we get her more balanced food so that she has fiber in her diet, so that her body is moving the waste properly, whatever it is, getting her some magnesium. They weren't doing that. So they just rushed to prescriptions, and then prescription might do one good thing and 10 other bad things. Now you're mixing other ones in there, but this is the normal route.
I know.
This is what's happening every single day. And it's so depressing to me. And I know you're probably doing what I do on set. Like, you're kind of like just sharing everything you know with everybody you can, because you don't want anyone else to suffer the way you did.
I had my duffel bag not only for myself, but it would be on my chair. And I had people coming up to me and they were like, hey, do you have your electrolyte packets? Because I have this specific one that doesn't have any additives. It's just from coconut water and all. And I'm like, yes, here. And it gives me so much joy to be able to share that with people, because you don't know what you don't know. And the problem is our world moves so quickly, and everyone is focused on not necessarily themselves, but like, how do we get there? Like, how do we accomplish this? And I think we forget that we can't do any of that without ourselves.
Yes, without our health.
Yeah.
Well, I went to Disney recently and I made sure I brought Element electrolytes for everybody, because I'm like, we're all going to be out there. It's going to be hot. We all need to make sure we have our hydration. But yeah, when I pack, it's a disaster now, because I use my Quintons. Do you know what Quintons are? They're like mineral hydrations. There's seawater in there.
Cool.
They're amazing. But they're ampules. And so I bring like 2 boxes of those with me, because I do 4 a day.
Amazing.
And then I've got all my supplements, and then I've got my neck pillow, because I can't sleep without my neck pillow. My neck will go out. Like, I look like a disaster that I need all these things. But again,
but that's how you show up whole.
I know how to operate at my best and highest now.
How does that translate now that you're a mom? Because I have some things there that I've had to still work through. Well, I did have some postpartum anxiety, more so with my first, less with my second. But it has a lot to do with the control and wanting to control, because I feel like I do know better than most. And I'm not saying that because I'm prideful and I have this ego. I really genuinely have been through so much, and I'm willing to learn, and I listen and I learn and I listen and I learn. This is like an obsession for me, and I enjoy it.
Me too.
So it's hard for me to let people in sometimes, specifically when it has to do with my kids.
Like caregivers,
Caregivers, totally. Also, like, the school conversation, birthday parties, I'm trying to find the balance, but like, I know too much about colored foods. I know too much about things that, like, of course my kids are going to be attracted to, and how do I have the language around it so that I can educate them without burdening them, So there's
it's really scary. You have to find your people that are on the same page, which is, I'm sure not hard in LA.
Sure.
It should be easier for us. Athena's only 10 months, but I know that, like, I feel like I keep telling my caregiver, please get her in the sun before she goes down for her first nap, because that's the sunrise sun. We need to make sure she gets as much of that as possible. Okay. Never happens. Every single day I'm like, no, you don't understand. This is like drinking water. This is the most important thing. And I mean, I'm doing it for the most part with her.
And like, let her just,
be naked.
Yeah.
But they don't understand the concept, and then they get scared.
I know.
Or when I'm here, I'm always doing it. But when I've traveled, I'm like, please. And it,
it's hard.
Or, the other thing I've had a hard time with is like, eating solid foods. I was like, guys, if you don't have teeth, or maybe you have one, just let's talk common sense for a second. For me.
Yeah.
Everyone can do what they want. But
Totally.
for me, it doesn't make sense to give a child solid food when they don't have teeth to chew it. They don't know how to chew yet. And now it's going into their digestive system that's just being built. And somehow it's supposed to digest whole food that's being swallowed. And I'm like, I wonder why kids have so many digestive issues. Maybe that's why. I don't know. Just a theory. So I'm like, we're going to stick to purees and we're going to stick to little teeny bits of things. They're teaching her how to chew actively now. But I remember talking to my naturopath. I'm like, this is my theory. Tell me if you think I'm nuts. She goes, no, 100%. Because I have friends who are like, oh my God, our kid 6 months was taking our cheeseburger out of our mouth and just hauling it down, which, listen, every kid's different.
Sure.
So, I mean, this kid's a little beast already. I was like, all right, he's going to be a football player for sure. Like you can tell. But, you know, Athena's so like delicate and little. I'm like, I don't want her body to try to have to digest something whole that's supposed to be chewed, because when you chew is when the digestive enzymes come out.
Yes.
So I know all of this. And so anyway, there's so many of those like little moments, right?
Yes.
So hard.
Yes. You know what I loved about that period of time was like, you know, people talk about like the whatever food-led whatever the weaning food, I don't know, whatever. I would give my kids things that they could hold and gnaw on. Never like whole foods. The most extensive meal I maybe made that wasn't necessarily like a puree or something was like a pastina and like a little soup that's like thicker. That was okay for me, but I loved the idea of giving them the power to like hold a carrot stick or like a celery. I loved celery for them because I knew that if they gnawed on it, they'd get the satisfaction of learning how to chew and get their gums ready and all that. But I didn't love the idea of like, I know what you're saying, because also what's the rush?
Yeah.
What's the rush? And if we go back, it's like, people nursed babies for so long and didn't do whole foods for a really long time because they were getting milk or however, they were on bottles for a while.
Yeah. Well, I heard that the rush for people sometimes is they want the baby to sleep. And if the baby eats all that stuff, then it's like knocked out.
Interesting.
I was like, no, not really what I want to do.
Interesting.
But we do, we got this little, think of like a pacifier ring. It has a net attached to it.
We loved those.
Yeah. And so she chews.
Same concept.
We put the strawberries in there or whatever it is, and she chews. So she's learning safely how to chew, because someone gave her banana. So
and if you could bite that off, that's scary.
So 2 months ago, whatever, she gets the banana, she starts choking. I had to give her the Heimlich.
Oh my God.
But it was like so funny because I'm so proud of myself. I didn't even panic. I just grabbed her, flipped her over. I just watched one of those amazing Instagram videos because I'm obsessed with the CPR and the Heimlich videos, just because I keep wanting to make sure
that you got it down.
That I've got it down. And I just grabbed her, boop, and it came out, and we were good.
Amazing.
But yeah, it's
a
wild.
Lot of uncharted territory, and you're like, but we're just trying to get them to eat, and there's so many fears around it all.
Yeah, I was worried about a lot of different things. Like at first, she didn't like crawling, and she really liked just standing with her hands being held and walking. And but you know what I realized? They all get to whatever they're going to do naturally on their own. So at some point she's going to be like, give me your food. Let's go. I mean, she wants our wine, but we're not letting her do that.
In some cultures.
Yeah. But she's, you know, I'm just taking cues from her.
Yeah.
And just kind of seeing what she wants and how she's kind of developing and ready for things.
Love that. I learned this thing with this incredible, I call her like a parent coach. She's an everything coach. But she used to say, don't put your kids in a position that they couldn't get into on their own. I still use that today.
Ooh, that's smart.
So the idea is that like, don't force them to put their legs in the position for them to crawl until they figure that out themselves. Don't stand them up until they figure out how to pull themselves up. And now my kids love monkey bars and climbing on ladders. And my kids will be like, hey mom, can you help me get there? Help me get my legs through here. And I'm like, I know that if you work hard enough, you could do it. And I don't want to put you in a position that you didn't know how to get into on your own and then you can't get out of it.
Smart.
Or, you know, like figure it out. And I've always believed that. And I had a daughter who didn't love to crawl, but then she started walking at 9 months, which was wild.
Oh my God.
So I was like, you know, they really do.
I love it. I started walking at 8 months.
See?
Which was crazy.
Us girls, man.
I know. We were like,
let's go.
Let's go. I was like, let's go.
Let's go.
I've always been, let's go.
Me too.
I was in college living in the best part of Boston on Beacon Street.
Wow.
And my husband met me and he's like,
you're living in a place where people are spending millions of dollars to live and you want to get out of here. And I'm like,
Let's go.
want to go. Let's go. Hey, I have a place that we can go to. Of course, we have to talk about the people that help us bring this to you. Friends, thank you as always for supporting us and listening to these few ads so that we can keep the lights on. So thank you for not fast forwarding, but let's go. Kevin and I have a lot of exciting trips planned. And as I'm getting my summer wardrobe ready, because I'm thinking we're going to have a trip to Greece in our future this summer, I'm thankful to my friends at Macy's because of course they have everything. For any Heal Squad members who are listening, have a trip coming up, Macy's has everything that you need, of course, for all your summer occasions, including the perfect outfit for your graduation or your summer trip or that end of summer wedding. If you need some inspo, want to know where to start shopping, go to my Macy's wish list in the podcast description and let me know what you end up with. We also have Way hair products.
Ooh.
Do you use Way?
I have in the past,
Isn't
but
it
I don't
great?
use it currently.
Okay, so I used it today again. The hair oil is my favorite thing that they make right now.
Ooh.
Hair is really, really important. And I always say hair is a woman's best accessory. I don't know if you feel the same way, but if
yes.
my hair looks like shit and my makeup looks great, doesn't matter.
It's the opposite for me too.
Oh my God. If I'm getting my hair and makeup done for a show and the makeup artist could have crushed it. If the hair looks terrible, I start picking apart the makeup.
I'll pick apart everything.
And I'm like, wait, it must be the makeup. And then I'm like, no, it's the hair. The hair is just so bad. So great hair days come with Way. The leave-in conditioner is also one of my favorites, but the hair oil I use when my hair is wet and it makes it so it's not frizzy and also not heavy. So it's very lightweight. And
I see it. It looks incredible.
It's really like light.
Is that all your hair?
Yeah.
Oh,
but it's also like the hair oil makes it so soft and not heavy. Like I
know what you're saying.
Obsessed with it. So for any listeners who want to elevate their hair care routine, you guys can try Way products at www.theway.com. Use the promo code Heal Squad and get 15% off. Let me know how your hair likes it. Daniella, this is such a fun conversation so far.
Lots to do.
So you have your health stuff. They put you on all this stuff.
Yeah.
You decide you're going to come off of it.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
It was triggered by some emails that I got and some just word of mouth that I heard people were really suffering from Zelnorm. And eventually the Zelnorm wasn't available anymore. So I don't remember if I got off before it or if it just wasn't available and I couldn't get it again. Now, here's the thing, there was probably a part of me that was addicted to it too.
Well, it's speed. Of course you were.
So,
I mean, I'm not.
No, of course.
I'm just
I
saying,
know.
of course you could be or would be.
For sure. For sure. And I have to admit that I am someone, I've mellowed out now, but if there was a drug I was going to take, it's caffeine. I enjoy having energy.
Yeah,
I enjoy.
Who doesn't?
Right?
Do you know my naturopath said the number one thing she hears from people, the number one health complaint is lack of energy. And exhaustion.
Well, I cracked the code on that because if I knew that energy was my biggest thing that I would always want, and I had to then get off of this drug that was making me feel like I could accomplish everything. My run-throughs were solid. I was memorizing my lines no problem. I was funny and all this, and the show was doing, I realized okay, well, how am I going to get this energy back in the healthiest way possible? Now, keep in mind, I actually was vegan already to begin with. I just think I got more sure about the why. I came at it from a place of I don't love the cruelty. I don't love what's happening in the animal factory farms. I don't like any of that, right? So what can I do about it? I'm going to take control. I'm going to be vegan. And yes, that was really empowering, but what I've learned since is even more empowering. I truthfully just love natural ingredients. I love ingredients that are whole from a source. It brings me back to my Italian roots, picking things from the garden with my nonna and the fava beans. Let's use the parsley today. This is fresh. I enjoy that. That brings me joy and it's full of life. So I've never actually had a problem with energy to begin with. I just wasn't paying attention to what my body needed and eating the foods that it was craving. And I've always been that kind of kid. I grew up eating Velduta at my nonna's house. That was it. I just loved. And so I got back to that. And even though it took the evolution of from 70 pounds to 130 pounds, and I finally found my natural way, it took me taking the reins and saying I'm not doing the doctor thing. Everyone can just go away and I'm going to figure this out on my own.
How old were you at that point?
I was 17, almost 18. And it wasn't easy, especially in this industry. I remember my manager at the time was like, nothing tastes as good as skinny feels. And I thought, yeah, well, I'm not, yeah, it was, and like, listen, that was so common. And she was probably trying to help. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. That's not what I need to hear right now. I'm trying to like get healthy.
Wow.
And I
because
did.
this kind of spun into an eating disorder of sorts,
Oh,
right?
the eating disorder was riddled into the Zell norm of it all. Like,
Okay.
I was high on the fact that, like, now I'm thin. I don't have to do anything. So the disorder came almost instantly while I was on these meds, right? Because this is effortless. Like, I don't have to throw up anymore. Like, I don't have to, like, starve myself.
Oh, you were bulimic too.
Oh, it was all of it at that time. All of it.
Wow. So, but were you bulimic before the Zellnor?
It was all around the same time. So the bulimia happened in the cusp of like, now I'm on this new show. I want to be thin. My home life is a wreck. I'm going to take matters into my own hand. The only thing I could do is like, it feels good to get rid of whatever I ate. That happened. And then the digestion system just stopped. Everything kind of stopped.
Okay. It's making a little bit more sense to
so
me.
now the IBS was diagnosed. And now I'm like, okay, well now I have IBS. I have
But
to be
did
on
you tell them that you were throwing up?
No, I didn't say anything.
Okay, of
and to
course.
be honest, like, and I just told my husband this the other night, I was like, I feel so much more confident talking about this now than ever, because I think for a while it takes a long time to get rid of disordered eating. And I certainly haven't had it in the last 10 years, but it was like a lot of shame around that. That like me, someone who cares so much about my health, like I would hate for someone to not trust me based off like a mindset that I had in a time where it was so layered with emotions and environment and
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So that happened. And then you were 17 taking the reins.
Yeah.
But you're still on TV.
Yeah.
Craft service. You're still in the throes of everything. You still have family at home
Sure.
that are troubled. How did you take the reins even in that, you're still in that like gully of shit, right?
Yeah. It was a process. I would say it was probably like a 10-year evolution where I took the reins in a sense that I unfortunately looked at the Western medicine in a way that I never wanted to revisit. So I looked into all the other remedies, like what can I do to be on a better supplement, or how do I just change the way that I'm eating? How do I balance my lifestyle? How do I add in better healthy regimens, working out, like sunlight, water, all that stuff, right?
Sunlight too, huh?
Yes.
You're not scared of sunlight?
Not at all. I don't think we even have sunscreen in our house.
I saw a bottle come into the house and I go, what's that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel ya. And so anyways, yeah, it was like 10 years of me trying to find my way and like get back into like a healthy body that I felt confident with. And yeah, and then I got on Victorious and I did feel really good. And it was nice too, because I was the oldest in that cast, which gave me that feeling of like, I can nurture, which I so love doing. So everyone was around 5 years younger than me. And I felt like, okay, I can show people like, let's eat, like
You can be the leader.
I could be a little bit of a leader, and I needed that. It was really good timing for me. And so that happened, that door closed. I met my husband around that same period of time. And I'm telling you, and I'm not just saying this, like the digestion problems that my parents swear I was born with, mind you, okay? Like she always had IBS. She was colic from a baby. She always struggled. But it's like, it wasn't me. It was life. It was me not knowing how to manage, not knowing this is my nervous system. Like this is where my emotions go. If I'm stressed, like now I have breathing techniques. Like now I know that if I just go outside and I get out of the house, like if I go for a walk, like life changes. But back then it was like, I'm feeling something. What do I do? And I internalized a lot, and I didn't have a resource where I felt safe enough to like, I don't know, like my Nonna once would be like the person I would go to, where she would put, the baby oil from the Mother Mary bottle on my belly and do the things and the rosary and the praying. And it was like, that practice felt safe to me. But when that wasn't available, I didn't have my own. And so now I've learned in that course of like 17 to my 20s, now 30s, like I've got to plethora of practices that like are always there. So much so that like I only need them once in a while. Like they're ingrained in me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you lean on any other health professionals, like a naturopath or anything, to help you?
No, because it wasn't really not supported, but it was just not available. It wasn't something that like was brought up. Yeah,
So you
I
were
had to
self-taught.
find that on my own.
Got it.
I had to find that on my own. I got my period back at 19.
So you didn't get it all that time?
No.
Yeah.
But that's a
But
great
that
testament,
happens with
right?
eating disorders, right? You
Eating
lose it.
disorders. My weight was too low. I got off the meds. I started to balance hormones. Everything balanced. But it took a while. And
Were you ever on the pill too?
No, not until I met my husband, and that was very short-lived. I'm very sensitive to things, and it's something that I've never been. I don't know. I don't even take Tylenol. So the idea of taking a pill was not for me.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I only tried it. And again, like with the advice of a doctor. It wasn't something I wanted to do. I wish someone would have talked to me about natural remedies and like cycle syncing and all that, because I've now been in my relationship for 13 years and I've followed an app and it's my savior. Now I know my body inside and out.
Yeah. They don't teach us that. They don't teach us our bodies.
Incredible.
It's really, really sad. Like I have a friend who was just diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer and he's alone. And we were like, okay, well, we'll help run your care from this coast, because he's on the East Coast, and we'll be on the phone with the doctors and Zooms and stuff like that. But like, I was like, how long were you having unique stools, let's say, like thin stools? And he's like, oh, a while. And I was like, it's so sad that we don't know enough of the warning signs that our bodies are giving us to be able to go to the doctor fast enough to be able to catch something at stage 1, let's say. So it's like knowing that it's not normal to have these strange sized stools. That means you might have an obstruction, like a tumor, or anything else. There's so many like alerts that the body gives that we just don't even pay attention to or know. And, I wish that they taught this in school. I wish they taught us about cycle syncing and, understanding your body. And it's unfortunate. It's a big miss.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you brought up school, it just reminds me of like how much of us are forced to be in a routine that isn't ours from such a young age. And if you're not in an environment that supports like you and maybe what you're feeling, and you're forced to just, okay, now you got to do this and you got to sit here for this amount of time. You got to focus on this. Like, we are so out of sync with our natural bodies for such an extended period of time that almost feels more normal than it does to feel in your body. And that took me a while to realize, and I honor that with my kids and choosing like where they're going to go to school and how they're going to like, their childhood. It's really important for me to like acknowledge a more like nature point of view, where it's like, I want to honor you and the environment and like make sure that your needs are not neglected and forced into this like dynamic that is status quo.
Yeah. It's there's a lot of considerations. All right, guys, that is the end of part 1 of my conversation with Daniella. Tomorrow, we will be back for part 2. We're going to be talking about Victorious, the show that she was on Nickelodeon, what she thought of the Nickelodeon documentary, or the documentary about Nickelodeon, Quiet on Set, and what she kind of dealt with behind the scenes of this industry, and so much more. Acting updates. We're talking all about Christmas movies and whether we like kissing people in them or not. Hilarious. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoy.
This podcast and all related content published or distributed by or on behalf of Maria Menounos or MariaMenounos.com is for informational purposes only and may include information that is general in nature and that is not specific to you. Any information or opinions expressed or contained herein are not intended to serve as or replace medical advice, nor to diagnose, prescribe, or treat any disease, condition, illness, or injury, and you should consult the healthcare professional of your choice regarding all matters concerning your health, including before beginning any exercise, weight loss, or healthcare program. If you have or suspect you may have a healthcare emergency, please contact a qualified healthcare professional for treatment. Any information or opinions provided by a guest expert or host featured within website or on company's podcast are their own, not those of Maria Menounos or the company. Accordingly, Maria Menounos and the company cannot be responsible for any results or consequences or actions you may take based on information or opinions.